Hey, I'm back. This particular video, um, hopefully, will help you gain some perspective on this matter. All right. Hopefully, it's not too busy today, noisy in the community, because hey, people are out and about. Okay, and the weather is fairly nice, so expect it. Why not? I want to talk about, you know, sex and why some people, many people, would say things like, oh, that's old fashioned, or no one thinks like that anymore. No one's still doing that. All right. Things are changed. Things are a different way now. I don't know if you guys have ever heard anybody say stuff like that. And I don't know, something about that just gets under my skin. I don't know if irk is the right word. Maybe it irks me a little bit to hear it because I don't know. I just think it's a cop out. It's an excuse. So let's dive into it pretty deep today. Before I begin, if you do like what I'm going to talk about today, whether it's the subject or halfway through this video or at the end of the video, please consider subscribing. If you're a subscriber already, yay, thank you. You are awesome and loved. Okay. Is that a heart? That's a heart right there. And big hugs to you. And also like the video, everybody. Okay, like the video. One thing I want to talk about when someone refers to saving sex for marriage is particularly the matter. Saving sex for marriage or waiting until marriage or remaining either celibate or abstinent until, you know, you're committed into marriage. That's mainly it. So let's get into it. I'm going to jump right on this. Let's consider some things that people know as traditional, old school, since the beginning of time, or how should we say, has been around for centuries or millennia or generations. Okay, paper, papyrus, or paper, handwriting, right? has have been around for millennia. Perfume, maps. Yes, today we use technology. We may use Google Maps or MapQuest or some other map app. And map app that rhymes. Compasses have been around forever. Ancient women of Egypt, Victorian women, women of other eras and cultures wear makeup. Geishas, right? I think geishas are of Japan. If I stand to be corrected if I'm wrong, but geishas, they wear the makeup in Africa, African cultures, and heritages. They wear, the facial paint and makeup, even in the Amazon or in South American cultures. And I'm not sure about European cultures, or I know Native American, like all over the world, Native American cultures. Makeup has been around and it has evolved, right? But it's been there. Um, Humans have worn shoes for millennia. Humans have worn clothing, right, since the beginning, whether it's just to cover this part or that part. Humans have worn jewelry forever. Humans have drunk wine, other forms of alcohol, juices, all this other stuff. Let's talk about maybe things we say. Good morning, good afternoon, excuse me, pardon me. Things like please, thank you, hello. People who are gentlemen or let's say chivalrous, they may open doors for women, pull out chairs for women, let's say pay for dinner or some event or vacation or trip. Um, these types of things still happen today. There's oftentimes expected. There are other behaviors that we do today that I'm not conjuring in my mind. It's not coming up that we do that would be considered traditional, old school. Been around for generations, time and millennia. Right. If you guys can think of more, please help us out down below. Help down below in the comment area and put some things that have been around. As the saying goes, there's nothing new under the sun, right? But then we have to think about something. These things that have been around have usually been pleasant things. And that's part of the reason why they continue is because it's pleasant, it's enjoyable, it's helpful in some way, right? It makes you feel invited or welcome or respected, or seen or heard and appreciated, loved perhaps. You want to smell nice and be accepted or complimented. You wear makeup or you wear jewelry. You need paper to write, to communicate far and wide, or to have a record of things. You wear shoes, clothing for protection and to cover up and for self dignity and respect. Alcohol, enjoyment, other things that we use helps us. Maps, compasses, and like cars, right? Cars. How long have cars been around? I don't know, a century, more than a century, a little bit more than a century. Can't remember. But of course, the horse and buggy was first, and then it was other modes of transportation before that. Just the horse or other animals, the donkey, the I don't know, whatever else. And then there's other forms of transportation that came later. But bicycles, right? They've been around. Um, but then there's also medicines, right? There's medicine. The thing about medicine is that it don't always taste good. Sometimes it tastes awful. But we still take it because it's necessary either for our health to improve or for us to survive or live or whatever the side effects is. Sometimes we endure the medicine, but we take it. Driving in the rain is not pleasant, at least not to me. And I'm sure many other people. I prefer to drive with no rain on a nice, you know, glowing day. But sometimes we're forced to drive in the rain or are caught in the rain. That's uncomfortable. Sometimes, let's say living in poor neighborhoods, it's uncomfortable. Some things become very uh, uncomfortable in life, but we are oftentimes forced to do it or feel forced to do it or without an option, right? Not many options are the only option. Um, but I'm going to make a connection with all of that in just a moment. So, well, let's think about this a little deeper. Okay, there are some things that are unpleasant we do. There are things that are pleasant we do and that benefit us. And then there are things like drugs, illegal chemicals, right? Illegal substances, let's just say. We know that all types of drugs exist. There's these drugs they talk about, Molly and Percocet and cocaine and fentanyl and even alcohol, right? Is a mind altering substance, a mood altering substance, a body chemistry altering substance that can, if abused, ruin your body, has life threatening side effects to yourself and others. Okay. But we have to realize that the very same thing that causes the feeling in us when we do these things or engage, which I don't, but for people who engage in certain things like illegal substances, mind altering drugs, or plants, let's just say, right? A lot of people who do these things get a feeling from them, and this feeling is oftentimes coming from chemicals released in the brain, particularly chemicals known as dopamine, endorphins or oxytocin, right? But we have to realize that these are the same chemicals that come if you engage in sexual behavior or petting each other, or foreplay or touching, or the actual engagement of sex or sexual interaction. Now, you have to realize that some people may say, well, yes, that's traditional. Like, no one's doing that anymore. Just live how you want to live. It doesn't matter. These days, hey, we got birth control pills. We got, the birth control, the shot. We got birth control patches. We got condoms. We have male and female condoms. We have all this stuff now. What's the big deal? Right? Dental dams. You have all kinds of stuff now. What's the big deal? We have drugs to treat diseases that you may get from engaging in this behavior casually. Like, what's the big deal? But you have to realize something too. Yes, we may have all these protectors and, advances when it comes to sex, but sex, when it comes to sex before marriage. But we have to realize something, that sex before marriage was not given to us as a command to follow just because there was no birth control pill or shot or patch or whatever else exists, or plan B pills or plan whatever else, or condoms, dental dams, diaphragms, whatever the case. The command to wait until marriage did not come prior to these things only because these things existed. There were other things that existed that could be equated to birth control, right? There was other forms of condoms before 2000, the year 2000, before 1900. There existed other forms of it. It may have been less comfortable or less easily accessible, yes, but they existed. Also, since the beginning of time, there is still something very popular and was then at that time known as the rhythm method. The rhythm method. So the rhythm method has always existed. So this goes to show that when the command came down to save sex for marriage, it was not necessarily because, all of this other technology didn't exist. So it would, we had to be told and commanded not to engage in sexual behavior before marriage, or else there's going to be, problems, diseases, single parenthood, or abortions, or other issues, right? Jealousy, rage, hurt, rejection, trauma, just feeling insulted, that other things that happen, right? Mental health issues that come along with engaging in this practice, particularly before marriage, and particularly before a healthy marriage or covenant marriage under God's order of things. That's a whole other video subject. All right, but this is basic. So at least, parts of this is just the basic. But I may go a little deep, but not that deep. That's another subject. So my point is that, yeah, the rhythm method was around. So obviously it was something deeper than just protection and prevention of other things. Why we all are commanded as humans to wait until marriage, because they had a form of birth control and other forms of birth control, maybe perhaps not as many, and not as many sexually transmitted infections or diseases back then either. Right, because these things come along and they morph, they transform into other things. They're discovered. We become more connected as humans. We trade. We just go into different lands and exchange, you know, money, fluids, all this other stuff, and then diseases travel from continent to continent, and they grow, develop, other things happen. And here we are. So it was a different scene back then, but it still existed back then. It started from somewhere. So obviously, it is a spiritual factor to this waiting. All right. There's a covenantal factor to this waiting because when you get married and have sex, it is considered consummating the marriage. Now, the word to consummate actually means to bring to completion, to complete a process. So obviously, sex is somewhere at the end of a process or the ultimate, the pinnacle, the plateau of something to complete it, to bring it into purity, to bring it at a level of bloom, I guess you can say. So there's definitely a spiritual aspect to this. Definitely a spiritual aspect to this is what I'm trying to say. Now I want to go a little deeper into it. You know, when it comes to, because we talked about, rhythm method, other forms of protection centuries ago. So, those things existed, and sex before marriage is still a command in the Bible. It meant the same thing it means today as it meant thousands of years ago for a reason. And we would not be where we are today. We would not have as much trauma as we do today if we were to just follow that command. And many people would state that, oh, well, it's, some people's excuses oftentimes is it's too hard to do. It's impossible. I can't do that. I have strong urges. I have a high libido. I can't control myself. It's too pleasurable. Yeah, but so is gambling can become an addiction, right? Illegal substances and chemicals can become an addiction. Certain plants can, heroin, whatever, certain types of psychedelic plants do, and whatever else. Yes, they're pleasurable and they can become addictions. Shopping can become an addiction. Eating can become an addiction. Addictions to sugar, addictions to salt, addictions to other things that we ingest or that we engage in. Okay, and sex is just one of them because they release these endorphins, this dopamine, this oxytocin, or serotonin. Like all these, we have chemicals in the body. That's just four. But imagine the hundreds of chemicals raging through all of us as humans when we engage in certain behavior. Even when when you learn something new, or when you listen to music, all kinds of chemicals, start flowing. But that doesn't mean you can't control it. Thank the Lord we have therapists. Thank the Lord we have counselors. Thank the Lord that we can pray. We have the Holy Spirit. We have things to help, whatever modality or method you choose to heal. Because trauma is real. And that's what I want to talk a little bit about. So oftentimes it's trauma that we go through that cause us to feel like we can't help ourselves, to feel like I have to have it, I have to have a smoke, I have to take sugar, I have to engage in certain forms of sex and not wait for a particular time, season, person, right? That we have a connection with, that we feel like we can build a life with and commit to permanently. And if not permanently, you may still end up in a second marriage or a third marriage. It's not saying that you're going to be with this person for life, even though that ideally would be the case. But in this imperfect life body system, probably not going to be the case. But we have traumas from our parents, from our great-grandparents, from our great-great-grandparents. Okay, Adam and Eve had traumas that they brought on to themselves, right? Because they were perfect, they were in a serene, tranquil, ideal situation, and trauma was introduced, and being through deception, and then it continues and it builds and it builds and it builds. Just like what's happening with quote unquote casual sex. In the next 50 years, where would it be? We would be in a worse situation. Today we have so many single parents that just the numbers are growing. The children that are being abandoned, abused, and put into foster care and becoming orphans, and just going through so much because it could have been prevented if we had waited to consult with God, Consult with spiritual leaders, consult with mature persons who have a successful life, who have successful relationships we can gain insight from, learn from them, and then have a better outcome in our relationships, our choices. But oftentimes we're not connected to that type of person. We need to go and seek out such people, pray to have those type of people come into our life, or we encounter those people in life so that we can have a better experience in life, opportunities in life to succeed in finance and relationships and marriage, in career, in raising children and teaching grandchildren, etc. The list goes on. All right, in learning. So, we end up getting these feelings of being disassociated, feeling detached, feeling afraid to be vulnerable, not wanting to attach ourselves to others. There are people who do, like I know this particular friend of mine back in the day who had lost their son to a traumatic situation. Okay, it was a young child. I think it was they had died in a tragic situation, and this caused the person to shut down their emotions. From that moment on, their marriage dissolved, and they just never felt feelings again. They engaged in casual behavior, friends with benefit situations, and they just never could connect with another human being. They don't want to feel that pain again. And so some things happen to us that cause many people to disconnect. And people would say, oh, that's just who I am. I don't feel emotion. I don't need to feel love or connection or chemistry. I just want to, experience that dopamine hit from an orgasm or from, you know, foreplay or flirtation or whatever the case, whatever level you feel it at. That's all I want to feel, right? The chemicals, the oxytocin, etc. But they don't want to feel the extension, the emotional connection, or the head space connection, or the heart space connection. They don't want none of it. It hurts. I agree. It's painful. Some people can't push past it. It takes a lot. I know, to push past it, to not let it affect you too deeply, to not let it completely ruin your heart, tear it apart, crack it open, fracture it, shatter it. It's not easy. So some people can, live like that. They may not realize what happened. They may not choose to get help or talk to somebody they can trust about it who can help them. Not somebody who's going to tell you you're right, don't feel nothing, F these bees or these hoes or whatever, or these kids. Or it's like some people, that's not the person to go to, because they probably had their own issue that got them in that headspace. They witnessed something in their life, either from birth or childhood or even in their adult life, that crack their emotion open. Some people born without conscience, psychopaths, sociopaths. Some people morph into no conscience, etc. It's just deep. We're not in a psychological seminar at this time. But what I'm trying to say is that humans naturally need structure. We need order. We need to feel comforted. We need to have a sense of being, a sense of belonging to a group. So I'm just saying that to say that don't let people lie to you and, say things like, there's nothing wrong with it before marriage. But order is what gives us our sense of calmness, stability. Like we know what's going to happen next. We're more comforted in situations. I know there's some people who say, oh, I'm more comfortable in chaos. But there's something that happened that caused you to be more comfortable. That's not a natural default. That's not like how you were born or innately defaulted that you like chaos. I know Trevor Noah in a recent interview said that he grew up in a domestic violence household, and he knew that when the silence existed or was there, he didn't know what was going to happen next. It might be another fight, something breaks something, and he has to go break it up or intervene. He didn't like the silence. It kept him on edge. But when there was chaos, when they were fighting, or whether it's his parents or whoever the case was, he felt like, okay, now I can do something. He don't have to focus on what's going to next happen, like the silence. So yes, some people thrive in chaos, but that's because, like I said, he admitted that he grew up in a situation where chaos meant something different. He didn't say he was born like that, but that's all he knew. Okay. But naturally, as humans, order is ideal. Serenity is ideal, stability. Yes, a little bit of uncertainty is important because, like, when we chase our goals, we don't necessarily know how it's going to turn out. But that excitement of what it could be and how big it could be is exciting. But that's not necessarily where trauma comes from, right? I don't want to go and give a definition of trauma. I'm not psycho analytical professional. I don't know whether it's a psychiatrist or psychologist, right? So we need order naturally from birth, as children, as young adults, even as adults, as older people. Belonging to a group, feeling accepted, not getting all this rejection. And it's like tons of trauma now. We thought the trauma was back in the day. It's even more now that we have social media. We see how people are actually living, right? Or fake living or real living or whatever the case. We hear about so many shootings. We hear about, police brutality. Sometimes we live in certain places where we didn't hear about these things. And they're like, what? This is the world we're in, right? We see catastrophes, earthquakes, tornadoes, tsunamis, storms. And we're like, what? This is what's going on in the world, when some people never grew up with that type of information. So that can also be traumatizing and shocking. So, people lose their children at a young age. They lose their spouses, their marriage, their comfort, their sense of self, their identity, which you can also gain if you have a spiritual belief. You can gain identity. I gain mine in Christ. And I'm just saying that to say, let's take an example. If you go on vacation, right? Don't you prefer your vacation to be ordered? Now, I'm not saying that you can't be spontaneous. I'm saying that, but before you go on vacation, you may say, oh, we're going on this particular flight, airline carrier. We're going to go on this date. We're going to stay in this hotel. We're going to stay for this long. We're going to return on this date, on this carrier, at this time. Like, there's an order to it. Yes, while you're on the trip, spontaneous things will happen, right? You may go to a different theme park versus another one that you had planned to, or both, or you might, do something you didn't even plan to do. Climb a mountain, go, down a ski slope, or I don't know what people do. Hold a alligator and iguana, a snake, or something. Pet a kangaroo. I don't know, but I'm just trying to say, like, you can be spontaneous, but there's still order surrounding that on a macro level. Okay. Now, more I want to talk about regarding that is the fact that in the Bible, there are two scriptures I want to talk about. 1 Corinthians 7, verse 2, where it says, you know what? Hey, if you want to engage in these experiences, sexual experiences, you can do it. The Bible says do it. It just says, but get married first. Like, the Bible does not deny, God does not deny. How can I say this? God does not deny the fact that sex is popular, that it exists, that it's the thing to do, that people love to do it. That's why sexual immorality or adultery, covetousness, all these things are a thing. That's why they're in the Bible and so important. They're a command. Because God knows this is what you're going to do. This is nature. I created it. I'm the originator, the inventor of sex. So this is what I want you to do. But I have a place, a standard for it. So 1 Corinthians 7:2 says, yeah, it's happening all over the place. People want to do it. It's challenging to resist. Almost feels impossible when the only thing that's going to kill you is no food, no water, right? Or some natural disaster or something else out of your control. Right? Car accident, other accident, freak accident, something else kills you that causes trauma to the body, gunshot, whatever. But sex won't. You're not going to die from that. You're not going to. It may feel like it. I agree. Yes, sure. I agree. You may feel like you're going to die from feeling sexually frustrated, turned on, pent up sexual energy. I agree. Been there, done that. Occasionally still go there. But my point is that, because as you can see, I'm not currently married, But my point is that you're not going to die. So God says, yes, get married. 1 Corinthians 7:2. Since you're gonna have the urge, and dating someone should not take forever. It should not take even a year. You can know if you want to marry someone in a few. Some people say weeks. They found the love of their life. They're still together decades later. Months, 3 months, 6 months. You can know even up to a year. When a person knows it's a connection, whether it's the man or the woman. But sometimes as humans, we push it past. We want to see what we can get away from. We're not interested in the commitment part. We don't want to be, chained, tied down, as some people say, to that, because responsibility comes with that. Whether it's mental responsibility, financial, emotional, legal responsibility, people don't want to be involved in that. So they're like, I'm going to just pretend like God don't exist, or He's not that important. He's not that important. His commands really don't matter. It's just a book. And I'm going to do what is most comfortable, which is see who I can sleep with or live with or continue to engage in this behavior without all of that stress, because responsibility is real business. Serious business is actually, being a true adult who cares about outcomes and people. Oftentimes people would say like, well, I don't, like I said before, sex don't, it doesn't bother me. I don't have that emotion. I can just be with anybody. But then studies show that one person is going to end up wanting more. One person eventually in a casual sexual relationship or friends with benefit will eventually want more out of relationships than just the physical. They're going to start feeling emotional and like, hey, where is this going? Do you like me? I don't know if I can continue this, and get emotional about it. Sometimes it's a guy, oftentimes likely it's a girl, but some people feel like they're tougher than they actually are because their chemicals kick in. The mothering chemicals kick in, those survival chemicals kick in. The fact that you could get pregnant, your brain knows it's a possibility. You're engaging in sex, you can get pregnant. You need someone to stay with you to raise a child in case of pregnancy, in case of childbirth. Your brain already is created for that. It's wired. So the fact that we're trying to like glitch the system or beat the system or of how our mind is created and works. It's sad. Some people, of course, we're imperfect, so some people's minds are going to be like that, but are going to be that way, but that's the minority. It's not the majority. So naturally, it's better to do it the safe way, not get emotionally caught up in situations that you may lose if it's not committed, and you end up having some disease, being a single father or mother. 80% chance it's a single mother, according to research and statistics. Please share this information with others. And there's also 1 Corinthians 6:19 talks about your body was bought with a price. If you're saved, your body was bought with a price. You are not your own. You belong to God. So this is what I mean by there's a spiritual indebtedness involved. Your body belongs to Christ. That's what it belongs to. It doesn't. It no longer belongs to you if you were baptized, if you were saved in the Spirit by the blood of the Lamb. Okay, so this doesn't really have to do with the fact that, oh, I can't get pregnant. I'm on birth control somehow, patches, like I said, pills. I use condoms. I use this. I use that. No, it's deeper. It's spiritual. Your body, once you're saved, belongs to Christ. It belongs to the Lord. I don't care how many chemicals or devices you use to protect yourself. It's not about what well, I'm not going to be a single parent. I'm not ruining anyone's life because I'm engaging in this. Everything's going to be fine. No one's getting hurt. Someone's going to get hurt. There's only a small percentage of people who may not get attached during sex, but that chemical oxytocin, serotonin, is going to attach you eventually. Maybe not the first time you do it, the second time or the third time with a particular person, but eventually it's going to grip you like this. It's going to grip you. Then what? Then you're going to be like, oh, you were right. But if you're somebody who don't want to admit that somebody else is right, that's going to be a challenge for you too. I was once like that. I didn't want to admit when somebody's right. It's uncomfortable. It's vulnerable. It's not a great feeling. But, hey, alcohol grips people. Drugs grip people for life. Put them under the ground. other things grip people. Some people are in thousands and millions of dollars of debt because they were addicted to shopping or spending or gambling and lost their everything, lost all of their possessions. Some people are addicted to all kinds of stuff, eating, lost their life too. High blood pressure, diabetes, cholesterol, other issues. I'm not saying that all these issues come about because of addiction eating. I'm just saying that's one of the side effects. Okay. But you can do your own personal research. My point is, though, is that think about these things. Check out 1 Corinthians 7:2. Check out 1 Corinthians 6:19. It's much deeper. God didn't even say, hey, you know, there your body was bought with a price. This has to do with single fathers and mothers and birth control and condoms. He never said that. He never said, well, if you don't use condoms, you don't have sex, or if you have them, then it's okay. He never said that. He said your body was bought with a price. You're mine. I don't care what invention came about. It has nothing to do with me. This is a spiritual covenant, you and I. You are now an heir of mine. You are my child, my son or my daughter. Whatever else the world is doing, creating, coming up with, inventing is not what we got going on here. Okay? And let's not even talk about the actual physical outcomes of not being cautious and careful with the person you're with. There's traumas that come with that, like I say. And people, they put down, deny emotional traumas, mental traumas, but it happens. Being rejected repeatedly, being dumped repeatedly. I mean, I don't like that term that much, but being treated like you didn't exist or you don't matter, you have no value. When someone uses your body, inserts their body into your body, which is the most intimate thing someone can do physically to another person. When we are in visiting a doctor or the hair salon, we give them permission to do these things. We sign contracts, right? Well, maybe not hair salons, but at least doctor's offices, right? Sign contracts to do these things because the hair salon is not going inside anything, or risking our life through diseases or other things we can contract. But doctors are, because they don't want the malpractice, but yet there's a problem with a marriage license, a certificate. You have to realize something. Like I said, humans need order. It's comfortable. They feel like they belong. The reason I'm saying this, there's just some dogs and their owners. The reason I'm saying this is because don't ever believe that a man or a woman does not recognize marriage. Just because you feel like you're in a new age or a new type of generation, you're thinking, well, that's not that important today like it used to be. But the way our human brains are wired, it is how it should be. Just because you're getting away with it or somebody have convinced you that it's not that important doesn't mean it's not that important. Everyone, or not everyone, but most people naturally have the default to what is order, not putting the horse behind the carts. Where the horse going to go? If you put it behind the cart, it's going to run into the cart or run the opposite direction. The cart's not going to move, or it's just going to get banged up. But my point is that when you put something that's not ordained or supposed to be behind something else, such as sex before marriage or marriage after sex, we know naturally how it should be. We know how it should be. The same way children know that they should not be touched in a sexual way naturally, we also know that this should come first. Because how come this person can just get me pregnant by accident, give me some disease by accident? Something else can happen by accident. They can just leave me, hurt my feelings. I feel threatened. I feel unsafe. Something is just not natural about it. Our chemicals tell us it's not natural. We don't have to wake up and hear someone say it. Your chemicals is a language. They talk to you. They know. So, yeah, you may even do like a commitment ceremony or something like that, but then it doesn't cover the legal part, and legal is serious because when y'all break up, you're going to see another type of person come out. And you're going to wish you had that legal paper in there when you're dividing assets because y'all moved in together, or someone got pregnant, whether you're just casually hooking up, or someone got a disease because you got too relaxed about the situation and didn't put something on that one time, or someone went out of your friends with benefit situation and caught something and came back to you because they don't care about you in the first place or themselves. Unless you're with a perfectionist who don't make mistakes because they're perfect. But my point is, yes, I agree. Some people don't have the feeling that they need to be attached to anything and shouldn't be forced to be attached to anything or anyone. But the majority of the time is what I'm saying. If this was a perfect world, I would say most all the time. But no, majority of the time. That's the way it is, the majority of the time. So I'm just saying it's better to be safe than sorry. And why would you want to be with someone who doesn't have a leader? If they don't have a great father or mother leading them, how do you even prove that? If they don't have a great spiritual leader or mentor leading them, how would you prove that? You don't know their mentor personally. You don't know the life of the person they look up to. Christ is the ultimate mentor. If a man or woman don't have Christ as their mentor, how do you know or how can you learn about who their real mentor is? Who is feeding them information and telling them how to think and where did they get their worldview? You should want to be with someone who has a mentor that is positive, that is futuristic, that has their best sense of safety and security and quality of life in mind. That's Christ. But there's so much I can share on this matter. Hopefully, all that I conveyed to you today was enough to get you at least thinking or to confirm how you felt or what you believe initially before I came on this video. Otherwise, like it. Thanks for being here. And don't forget to subscribe. That'll be greatly appreciated. Okay. Until the next time we visit, which I hope I can do it soon, maybe this month or in the month of May, I'll be back again. I just found some time today, some free time today, because I enjoy spending time here and teaching and sharing my thoughts. And hopefully, you guys can share the same down below. Take care of yourselves this week and there's the rest of this month. And hug somebody, say something positive to yourself and others or another person in your life. Let them know you care. Because I have to go do the same things too. Okay, until next time, take care of yourselves. Bye.